Alright, so another video here on memory. We're looking at models for explaining human memory, and this video is going to look at Baddley+Hitch's model of working memory. So this is an alternative to the multi-store model that we looked at in the last video, which is different. So the multi-store model of memory suggests that short-term memory is just like a single memory store. But Baddley+Hitch's model look at short-term memory in more detail, and they suggest that it is an active multi-component memory system that performs a variety of tasks. So working memory. So they talk about how short-term memory and all of the components of that. So you can have a look here. We've still got sensory memory, which is the same, and we've still got long-term memory here, which is the same as what we discussed in the last video. But what you can see here within short-term memory is quite a complex group of different parts that all work together in short-term memory, so hence working memory. So an active subsystem of short-term memory that temporarily stores and manipulates information that's needed to perform different tasks. And it suggests that we're actively doing something in our short-term memory with the information is there. While we're doing, a maths task, or we're holding information, but we're working on it and manipulating it in some way. And there's 4 different components here that we're going to have a look at as part of working memory, and we need to know what each of these parts involve. So the first part is the phonological loop. Phonological, if you break it down, phone, sound, phonological, so this stores a limited number of sounds, speech-based or acoustic, that can be retrieved from echoic memory, so from that auditory information, auditory sensory register, and stores information for up to about 2 seconds unless it's rehearsed. The phonological loop is at work when you recite a telephone number to temporarily retain it, or when you prepare words to speak out aloud. So what is it sounding like? The phonological loop is sort of that inner voice. If you think about what your inner voice is saying, that would be what our phonological loop is. And they suggest that the phonological loop has sort of 2 subsystems that help it work. So there's a phonological store. So if you think about a store, this holds the representation of sounds for up to 2 seconds, known as the inner ear. So holding those sounds, storing sounds for 2 seconds, that inner ear, we can putting that information together. And the articulatory control system. So this holds sounds we want to keep or are preparing to speak out aloud. It holds their order for up to 2 seconds by sub-vocalizing them, which is known as the inner voice. So sub-vocalizing is rehearsing or silently repeating a sound on a loop to prevent decay. So we've got our phonological loop here. So it's about processing informations according to its sounds. We've got our phonological store here, which holds the representation of sounds, so like our inner ear, and we've got the articulatory control system here, which holds sounds that we want to keep or are preparing to speak. The next part in this working memory is the visuospatial sketchpad, sorry. So visuospatial, so visuo is our visual information, and spatial information that is retrieved from our sensory memory or long-term memory. So this deals with what things look like and how it's laid out in space, in the form of visual features. So we've got size, shape, color, speed, location, all of those things that we can see, and that's why it's called like our inner eye there. It has storage and processing components. So storage components are at work when you close your eyes and you can visualize objects in a room, and processing components are at work when you visualize like what's around the corner, or you're planning your route or your way to a class or to the shops or something. So that's the Visio sketchpad here. processing visual and spatial information. Next, we have the episodic buffer, which is an area that briefly stores a limited amount of sound-based information from your phonological loop and visual and spatial information from your visuospatial sketchpad with information from long-term memory and integrates it. So I always think about the episodic buffer as like an episode. We need visual information, we need the sound information, and putting it together with stuff that we already know, so integrating it so that it makes sense. There's no point in seeing things if we can't hear it. There's no point in hearing things if we can't see it. Putting all of the information together, it's like it's making an episode of your favorite TV show. It'll only make sense if you can integrate those three areas together so we understand what it means. It says it acts as a buffer between the phonological loop, the visuospatial sketchpad, and long-term memory so we can make sense of information. So again, that's why we're putting it together. And lastly, we have central executive. So this is the area of working memory that monitors, coordinates, and integrates information from all of the different parts. So from the phonological loop, the visuospatial sketchpad, the episodic buffer, and long-term memory. I think of it like the boss man. So it has a limited capacity and 18 to 20 seconds duration there. And plays a major role in our attention. So being able to switch attention from different tasks or tackling a problem, whatever is important, he's like the boss. He's the thing that oversees all of the other parts and tells it what sort of it needs to do. So coordinating activities here. And I've got an example here that the central executive is at work when weighing up pros and cons, but basically putting all of the information together there. So if we go back to this picture as a summary, so we've got short-term memory, and Baddley+Hitch talk about working memory. So the different parts of short-term memory that enable us to process this information. We've got our central executive. Remember, he's the boss, so he's going to control and direct attention to the different parts. We've got our phonological loop, which is processing sounds, and there's the phonological store and the articulatory control system which feed into it. We've got our visuospatial sketchpad, which is visual and spatial information here, and the episodic buffer that integrates the information from the phonological loop, the visuospatial sketchpad, and short-term memory into one sort of episode. And together this makes up working memory according to Baddley+Hitch.